I was wrong about the JF-17 Thunder. When I was first gifted the Thunder by Mobius, thank you Mobius, I wasn't too thrilled that I had gotten what I thought was an F-16 clone, a cheaper version, a ripoff of my beloved Viper. The throttle looked exactly like the F-16 with all the buttons being in the wrong place, and it also didn't even have the side stick, opting more for a center stick that looked more like the F-18 Hornet. And don't even get me started about the gun being pointed down and the lack of ammo in air-to-air. Oh, and I can't forget the G limiter. But with all that being said, the more time I have doing BFM, basic fighter maneuvers, with the Jeff, the more I've come to love this aircraft. And I do have a tendency to pull for the underdog, or at least try to win with the underdog. And that is an F-18 Hornet, one of the best dogfighting modules in DCS. And if you're familiar with my channel, you know we love to do BFM, guns only, and we do it in a clean configuration so that the jets are performing to the max. So let's take a quick break to look at some of the charts that Contact Light at DCS Dogfighters has provided, just to get an idea of where the Jeff fits into the other aircraft as this F-18 Hornet is shooting at me. The first thing I always like to look at is the maximum sustained turn rate, the rate fight. Can we win it? No. And the JF-17 is not bad right under the Mirage 2000, but we're not going to initiate a rate fight or stay in the rate unless we find the Hornet super slow and we're pulling for a shot. If we look at the maximum instantaneous turn rate, the Thunder's not bad. It's only separated by one plane. And in fact, I didn't know it was better than the F-15. So I think the best game plan is going to be to go one circle as much as we can. We'll try to set up some traps, maybe some overshoots. I believe the Thunder has a better roll rate, and also the Hornet has a tough time slowing down. So getting an overshoot might be an option. And unlike the Viper, once the Hornet does overshoot, the Thunder is going to have an easier time pulling him in for the shot. If you're observant, you notice that the Hornet used the air brake, but it still overshot. But he did close it immediately, and now he's trying to push it back into the rate fight. And we're not going to win the rate fight. So he is slow, but we are also slow, and the Hornet will get its speed back in the rate probably faster than anything. So we've also got to get our speed back so we can take it over the top. I'm going to be trying to put it back into a one circle. Even though he does beat us in the instantaneous pull, this is going to be our best chance to get guns on, even if it's a mutual shot. And in fact, he couldn't even get the gun on me there. We have the exclusive shot, even though my gun is pointed down. So poo-poo on you, Stinky Hornet. Oh, he had one more shot. I didn't even see that until I saw the replay. I would love to be playing Thunder by AC/DC right now, but that would be copyrighted. From what I've seen online, the Pakistani designation JF-17 stands for Joint Fighter 17, with the Joint Fighter denoting the joint Pakistani-Chinese development of the aircraft and the 17 denoting that in the PAF's vision, Pakistani Air Force, it is a successor to the F-16. So it's no surprise why it looks so similar to the F-16 as I take this F-18 Hornet into the one circle, and honestly, it beats the F-16 in both the one circle and the two circle. The only downside is the pretty weak engine that takes a while to spool up. So if you play smart, you should have no fear when a Viper slots in against you. And in fact, if you look at the charts, the F-15 is a really good matchup, as is the Su-27, the MiG-29, the Tomcat. Even though those planes all have two engines, the JF-17 is going to make it a fun, close dogfight. So you don't always have to take the two best jets to have fun. And honestly, its AOA capability, I think, is going to catch even some Hornet players by surprise. So here I am in the one circle, and I'm going to pull for the shot. And this is kind of tricky. As you're going to see, the reticle goes under the hood, well under the nose. But one thing I failed to mention is just how good the Thunder is in rudder authority. And I'm able to swing that nose right back around in the rolling scissor, and really surprising the F-18. I remember Plexi in this one was like, "What? No way." And I was like, "Yes way." So my interest in the Jeff has grown, so I've been watching more videos about it, and I did see a video where the commentator said he considered it to be more of a 3.5 generation than a 4th generation, and that was due mainly to some of the materials used in it, but he did say the newer versions had a helmet mounted queuing system. So I thought that was very interesting, as the version we have does not have one, and also the version we have, the gun is pretty much facing down for ground targets. Now I did have a guy come in and say he was from from Pakistan and that he knew that the maintenance crew could actually adjust the gun. But I've looked on the internet and I haven't seen anybody that confirmed this. And on Discord, they told me that's not true either. Like all Jeffs, the gun points down. So I think that would be interesting if there was any information out there to say whether or not there was a version of the Jeff where the gun was pointed up for air to air, or at least just straight. Another thing that I really like about the JF-17, and it's kind of an unusual thing to like, but I really like its damage model. For example, if you get shot in the engine, sometimes you can fly around for a little while, but then it might gradually start to progressively get worse. Maybe some black smoke will come out, you'll get some caution lights. Unlike other aircraft, for example, that just seem to eat bullets nonstop, like the Hornet, sometimes you have to kill like 90% of the surface area of the Hornet just to get that thing to stop flying. Look at this canopy damage. This is one of the coolest effects in DCS. And in VR, it just adds so much immersion when the glass right in front of your eyes is shattered and the aileron just came off. I mean, why don't all the aircraft do this? And just look at this Hornet do a Cobra as he flies under me and then points his gun straight up at my belly. That's amazing.
Pull up.
And that was impressive, but I'm more impressed by the damage model of the JF-17. Even though I'm losing and I'm dying, it is really fun to see, to experience what I think is the best damage model in DCS. At the end of the last round, I mentioned VR, and I would say that the JF-17 module is really nice for VR. In VR, it feels like you're sitting in the cockpit of an actual jet. And when you look around the spatial awareness, you just feel like you're in that space. There's almost no clipping in the Jeff. For example, in some modules, it's worse than others, but in some modules, when I lean too much or I look around too much, my head actually will go outside of the cockpit, and it kind of breaks the immersion. And it also kind of looks silly with my head sticking out of the glass, almost like I'm a ghost or something. But yeah, in the Jeff, you just fit, and when you look around, you stay enclosed in that canopy, in that cockpit, and you just feel like you fit there and you're supposed to be there. And it really helps with the immersion. Alright, so where were we in this dogfight? It looks like we're in a 2-circle rate fight, which we don't need to be in. We can't win this, so I need to get out of this ASAP. So I'm sure I'm going to go over the top here shortly. Here I go, I'm going over the top. We're going to try to put it back in the 1 circle. And this is where the JF-17 will surprise the Hornet player. Oh, and I failed to mention the Jeff's gun, 30mm, baby. That's pretty big. That's what she said. So that should put a pretty good damage on this F-18 Hornet. There it is. So this is the last round, and it's pretty long, so I'll cut it down for time. But I had to show this camera angle because the Thunder is a sexy looking aircraft. It does look good, right, with the dual intakes. I've heard different articles or stories of why it has dual intakes and the Viper only has one. I've heard it's to reduce the radar cross section. I've heard it's to make it more aerodynamic, more stealthy. I've heard different stories, so I'm not going to pretend to know which one is correct. I'll just say, I think it looks cool. To me, the Jeff looks like a combination of the F-16 with a little bit of the F-18 thrown in. I did fire at Plexi, that was a joke. This was the last round, so I was goofing off. I think I did try to hit him though. And speaking of Plexi, I normally do record the audio with him, but I didn't know that I was going to make this into a video. I even told Plexi after this, you know what, I really like the Jeff more than I thought I did. I think I might fly the Jeff more often whenever he's flying the Hornet, even if I lose more often. And this round did end up being one of our most intense rounds that we had. I'm pushing for the 1 circle, so there's going to be a lot of high aspect shots, and we're both pushing our jets to the max, so we both just barely miss hitting the ground a couple times. I put us into a 1 circle right here. Plexi just barely gets out of the way. I've got to avoid hitting the water, then get my speed back so I can take it back over the top. Gonna try to force that 1 circle as best I can, and I actually think my nose is ahead right here as I'm able to get some shots before he does. Man, those shots were close, but I think Plexi's trying to jink the shots right now. Instead of just trading with me, I think he's going for the better position, or trying to. But he's in this loop fight, and with the Jeff's decent AOA, I'm able to keep pulling for a shot over and over. So it's a constant high aspect trade, head-on trade battle that we're having against each other. So that clicky sound is my G limiter kicking in. I'm pulling as hard as I can, but Plexi's gonna beat me to the high aspect, and I also just miss. Speaking of the G limiter, did you hear those clicks? That's my G limiter kicking in. And I used to think this was a detriment, but it's really an attribute and a strength if you use it right. I used to not like it because I couldn't hold 9 Gs like I could in the Viper, but you can hold a perfect, I think it's 7.5 to 8 Gs. And you can do that by just pulling on the stick and letting the Jeff do it for you. So it's almost like cruise control. So I think the rate band is between 360 to 380, maybe as high as 400 or a little bit over that. It depends. But if you get close or over that 400 mark, just pull back on the stick, the G limiter is going to kick in. You're not going to be able to pull 9 Gs, but it's going to let you pull the maximum amount that you can. So you don't have to focus on the perfect G number, and the Jeff's never going to let you black out, even to the detriment of killing yourself by running into the ground. But still, you got to be careful not put yourself in that situation, but it's never going to let you black out. At least I haven't figured out how to do it, and I've learned to really love it. So this whole time, me and Plexi have been in some kind of weird up and down spiral, and I've been trying to pull lead most of the time and surprise him with that shot right there. So those are the reasons I have now changed my opinion, and I love the JF-17 Thunder. Hope you guys enjoyed this shorter format. If they do well, I will make some more, and as always, thanks for watching.